Today's guest is Desi Caswell. Desi is an entrepreneur and business owner based out of Seattle, Washington. She is the co-founder of Fathom Branding, a public relations and event coordinating agency. Desi, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to chat.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I know we go back quite some ways in a friendship, and I remember when you were starting this whole project, but I'd love if you could tell our audience how did this journey with Fathom Branding begin, and what is it that your company does?
So my journey with Fathom Branding began actually a year ago this week. So we're on our year anniversary now. I was working as a manager in a shoe shop and working with a friend who owns a clothing brand, Guillermo Bravo, and also working in the restaurant industry. So worked in the restaurant industry all throughout COVID, was looking for something different, had thought about starting a business of my own, and then finally kind of found the right person that I could actually see myself starting a business with, my business partner, Anika. And so we were like, we could keep doing freelancing. We could try and do our own thing individually, or we could try this out and see how it goes and join forces and open a business. And so that's kind of how Fathom started. We took that for a long time. We had held off on starting the business because we couldn't think of a name. And one day we went and got chicken wings at Babar. For those of you who know they are the greatest chicken wings. And we were talking, and I was like talking about how something was unfathomable. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like, it's Fathom. Fathom is the name of the business. And then since then, we've just been doing our thing. That's great.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about what that thing is? What do you all do? What services do you offer? And if somebody was to work with Fathom, what would they be getting in return?
Fathom is a predominantly PR and event marketing, event planning, event marketing agency. We started as a branding agency. We can still totally do that. Honestly, most of our clients are entrepreneurs and people who are starting their own businesses who need help with a logo, with branding, with strategy. We offer all of that. Currently, most of our focus is on coordination. We work with a couple nonprofits doing fundraising. We work with some businesses downtown who are doing events to kind of welcome people back into the area. A big focus of ours is the fashion and apparel industry as well. And so we work with a lot of brands to produce and direct photo shoots, campaigns and launches for new clothing collections. So it's a pretty wide variety, honestly. Right now, we really do love the focus on event management, and then also and together direct and produce video and photo shoots.
Is that because that's what you enjoy most doing, or is that because that's what you all are best at?
Funny, we, have always enjoyed campaign work. And so coming up with what is the big picture, whether that is a launch of a new product, a fundraiser, anything like that, to be able to come together and be like, okay, what is really the meaning behind this? What does it look like? What's the timeline? All of that. And this year we got the opportunity to work with a lot of photographers and a really great videographer team. And it just it meshed. It felt so great to be on set. I remember the first time we were with a video team filming, it just was like this light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And it gives so much joy. And so definitely this year, out of passion, we have gone closer to that role. So I've gotten the opportunity to direct and produce a couple of videos now, which has been super great. And then the event part, there's a huge demand. I had no idea that there was such a demand in Seattle. Most event planners in the city specialize in weddings, or they're specialized in super corporate events. I have a background in the restaurant industry, and so kind of bringing those together and being able to create events that are different and just based on tail and exciting, cool. We really do love doing it and creating those experiences.
That's great. I'm super curious. Like, you've talked about a few industries that you work with, and is there something that drew you to those specific industries, or was it just naturally sort of the clients that came calling?
Yeah, it really, our clientele, it naturally developed, which was great. I never thought that I would be working in the fashion industry. It's not like it was my dream as a kid, or never honestly even my big interest or my major goal. I mean, when I was in college, I was specializing in nonprofit fundraising. So working with Seattle Children's Hospital, St. Jude, fundraising. And then, yeah, just kind of that flow of life. I started to meet our friend Luis in particular, who owns his own brand. And then within that, I was able to just start learning more about that industry. Started working in a shop, started buying. So I was working with a lot of shoe brands, and it's been really fun. It's been such a cool experience. And so it kind of just happened based in the world that we're in, that we have a lot of people in the fashion industry around us, and it's given us the ability to really focus in on that. But then we also we work with a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs. So one of our clients is launching his own online fitness platform today. We've got some clients who own Airbnbs or who are realtors. So yeah, it really does vary. I think is great for fun. Makes every day very different.
Yeah, that's really cool. I something you said earlier, it's stuck in my head of this is your 1 year anniversary. And I know we talked like around 7 months ago, 8 months ago. And yeah, I'm really curious, like from when you started to now, what are like the biggest lessons that you've learned that you wish you could go back and tell the Desi that was just starting the company?
That's a good one. I think the first thing that I would go back and tell myself starting this business is to charge more. I mean, I was definitely underselling myself, I think. As new business owners, I think it's really easy to get in that realm of, okay, this is something new for me. Maybe I'm not as experienced. No, maybe I shouldn't sell myself too high. And looking back at it, I don't think I believe that. I think if you are willing to put in great effort, if you're willing to see flaw, or if you do something wrong and own up to it, if you can communicate and deliver something that your client is proud of, it doesn't really matter how much experience you have. I never had experience in this industry. This is my first year working in PR, and I think it has made an impact of there's more to learn, but the quality of work hasn't faltered. It just takes more time to learn it. And so I think that's the biggest piece of advice. I think secondly, another piece of advice I would give, we've talked a lot in Fathom of if we need to work with less industries. And I know, Henry, we talked about this actually when I started the business. You were asking what is your focus, what industry are you working with? And I think I would go back and be a little bit more focused, because but it was also really stressful to be working with 10 to 12 clients at a time with small jobs versus maybe 3 who were bigger jobs and able to provide a little bit more finance and more resource. And so I think for my state of being, definitely taking on more of a focus would have been easier. But I still love that I got to learn a lot of the things and what I do like and don't like. So that was
Totally. Now, I just want to remind all of our listeners that if you've enjoyed this episode so far, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Also, please hit that notification bell in the top right corner so you don't miss any of our new content. If you have any questions or comments, please make sure to submit them in the comment sections below. Now, you've obviously learned a lot of lessons over the past year. What have been like the biggest wins for you? Moments that you're like, when it happened, you knew you could keep going and wanted to keep going?
Yeah. Biggest wins. One of our biggest wins, I'd have to say, is taking the time to work on our own projects as well. When we first started the business, business, it was hard to find balance. We were just constantly working all the time. But the whole reason that we wanted to partner are creative people. And we want to be at the point one day where Fathom is a brand in itself that is putting on events, creating spaces, maybe even creating products that just as themselves are Fathom. They're coming out of our brain, our heart, our creativity, and that's the point. And so I think the biggest win in the past couple months has been being able to start putting time towards our own creative first editorial shoot that we did just because we wanted to. And so with our community, we were able to collaborate with a lot of people. What would typically be no problem, a $50,000 photo shoot, we were able to do for like $1,000. And so being able to really like bring creative people together in Seattle and work on these passion projects has been the biggest win.
Yeah, I've heard several times you mention we. Obviously, you do have a co-founder. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means for the business, having somebody else bought in with you? And would you recommend that folks start a company with a co-founder, or for the solopreneurs out there who might say, I don't need a co-founder, what would you tell them?
I got really lucky that Anika and I met. We just like vibed really well. We haven't had any problems in our business. We have a lot of the same goals. We communicate really well. It's been awesome. If it wasn't a good working environment, it would be terrible. But I have felt really grateful to have someone by my side and to be doing this with someone else. I think I would have had a lot harder time doing it on my own, just because particularly in the creative realm or when you're working on your business and you don't have anyone to throw ideas by, to even just validate you, or if you have an experience and are able to talk about it and then your partner to be like, yeah, you're right, that was really messed up, or maybe you should look at that again, kind of in the wrong. It's helped so much to just have someone by my side. It's kind of funny, we work on like a 2-week kind of timeline where I will be super busy for 2 weeks and Anika's kind of chilling or, preparing, and then it will switch. So I'll be good and she'll be working. And so it's funny because at first, it took us a while to realize that was happening, of like, oh, I'm really stressed and the other person isn't, and what's going on. And now we found so much solace in that, where it's like, okay, this is my go time. My partner's here to support me in this, they're there for whatever I need. And then in a couple weeks, I'm going to have some more chill time and I'm going to be able to be there by their side. And so that's been really great for me to be able to know that I have some relief, or if I really need time or need to step away, I can do that as well. So I'd recommend it. I've enjoyed it.
That's I think one of the reasons I asked that is, so I've been involved in the creation of 4 different businesses, and the co-founder piece has been the most important part to me, because ultimately I'm a people person, and like when people excite me, they get my energy going, I'm going to produce better work. And then also having that accountability partner is extremely important at times, but also if you go the wrong route and you get connected with the wrong people, it can have the opposite effect. So I guess looking forward for Fathom Branding, what's in the cards for the next year for you two? And how do you see the next year playing out?
Yeah. Well, and I'll go back to what you were just saying. I think to add to, if you are going to start a business with someone else, actually looking for same values but opposite like joys or interests is really beneficial, because Anika is design. She's much better at like sitting down at the computer all day doing a design, looking at those really small details, where I am more of like a storm in that I am doing a million things at one time. So I am more client focused. I am putting out the fires, as we say. If like anything comes up, I'm available. And then you need that other person who's able to have that time to work on the things that like must just require hyper focus. We talk about it in like an external and internal role. And so anyone who's starting a business, I would recommend, if you're work with someone, talking about that with your co-founder to say, okay, how are we going to do this if things arise and we need to focus? Who's going to take on those different tasks? So that's been really helpful. Yeah, and then Fathom for the next year, we are trying to travel. We are trying to really put a focus on events and direction and production for photo and video. We've got a couple music videos we're excited to work on. We are going to work on a couple conferences and large scale events. I would say we do want to keep focusing on the fashion industry. I would love to be able to travel more, to work with different brands, do photo shoots with them, and just create. In the long term, also, it's always been our dream to open up a creative space. And so if that is buying a home somewhere, probably not in Seattle because it's so expensive, but maybe Mexico City, maybe, a different country somewhere, for artists to go, to create, to join, that would be a very long-term goal for us and something we're super interested in doing.
Oh, that is extremely interesting. And I've seen a lot of business models around creative co-working spaces, especially in Austin, Texas, that are extremely successful. So I think that there's something there if y'all can pull it off. I kind of want to real quickly turn back the clock. Before you ever started Fathom, did you think this is what you were going to be doing? I know not the same industry, but did you ever think you were going to be starting your own project, your own nonprofit, your own business, or was this something that you just sort of fell into?
Yeah, I definitely always saw it in the cards that I could be a business owner. When I was a kid, I was always really good at sales. So like Girl Scout cookies, I got you, like that, lemonade stands. I used to sell that. Like I was always doing stuff like that. Um, my parents, my dad's always kind of had that entrepreneurial interest, but never did it. He still talks about opening a bar when he retires. And so, I've definitely seen it. I think I was told as a kid it makes more sense to go down a safe path. So I remember when I decided to go, I grew up in Texas and Dallas. And I remember when I decided to go to college at Seattle U instead of one of the big Texas schools. There was some disappointment in like my extended family because they were like, well, you should be doing something safe. You're really smart. You should be a doctor. You should be a lawyer. You should be going towards some type of industry that is safe, secure, and you're going to make money. Like, of course, that's what you should do, right? And that never really fit with me. Like I've always hacked as well. And so going to Seattle U and studying anthropology and, getting more involved with nonprofits, that really worked for me because whatever the job is, I don't want to be in it for the rest of my life. Like I hope that Fathom grows and continues. If Fathom, is done one day and the next thing is on its way, that's great too. But my biggest goal has always been to have it be at peace and where I can really create and do something bigger. And so for me, being an entrepreneur allows me to do those in a way that working a 9 to 5 doesn't necessarily always give you.
Yeah, definitely. I just have transitioned into my first like 9 to 5 ever in my life. And
Yeah.
it is all like weighing the pros and the cons. Like you get time. I clock out at 5 and I know the entrepreneur life, oftentimes you're not clocking out ever. You're laying in bed worrying about the next deal, the next client, the next project. And so, but at the same time, you do get that freedom and control, which is very important. There's a lot of glamour associated with being an entrepreneur. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the hidden downsides that people might not see on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, when you start a business, no one tells you that there's no handbook of what you're supposed to do. And actually, I don't know if it, I'll say corporate America or whatever it is, but there's no, like, you can't find this information anywhere. Like, okay, I want to start a business. Now, what do I do? Like, I had to rely on friends so much. You can't really just Google easily, what are the steps to now be responsible business owner. Um, and thought that like a Washington one was enough, right? Things like that, where all these things pop up. How do I do taxes? Where do I find an accountant or bookkeeper that is a good price and that I can trust? Um, all these things. I mean, it's a lot. Even when it comes to just things like, how do I hire someone? How do I know when it's time to expand? How do I not, just totally like pull myself too thin? There is a lot of things that you're just left to kind of figure out. And it takes a lot of knowing yourself too, of your own comfort level and when things are feeling like they need the next step. I'm really fortunate that basically everyone in my life is an entrepreneur. So everyone I work with is entrepreneurs. I work in a space where everyone's just doing their thing. And so I've had a lot of support in that. But it has been hard to not know different things. I think my first tax season was really scary. Just all those things that people don't really talk about. And you are responsible. I mean, we have a couple part-time employees now. And once you do that, everything changes because it's not just you're responsible for anymore. You need to make sure people are taken care of. If it was just me and I don't have enough clients next month, then I ration, right? But I never want to tell someone who's working for me that I can't actually pay them. And so it just really changes everything. It is a lot of stress. And it definitely needs to be something that you like doing, because if not, then it may not be worth it for you.
Yeah, I completely. Once you have people who are depending on that paycheck on you, it just changes the game completely. Yeah. And I think we talked about like accountability that a co-founder will hold for you, but like the accountability of making sure that people get paid on time there's like nothing above that in my world of like, okay, you can't mess around. We have to get these deals done because X, Y, and Z people are depending on it and put their trust in you. So I guess like, how do you deal with that stress? Because that can be a lot.
It is stressful. I mean, it is stressful. We have been super fortunate that when we started our business in September of last year, we have been able to financially care for ourselves full time. We started hiring employees in probably July part time as well, but have always put it as a contract role. So I would actually recommend anyone who's thinking about expanding their business, if you are able to, and this is what other businesses who are larger have told me they did as well when they first started, is if you can hire people on a contract basis versus payroll, that's really helpful, because you can say like, I'm contracting you to do this job. I know this money's coming in, like, here's this. These are things I hope to have for you in the future, but until contracts are signed, I can't guarantee anything. I have really tried to deal with the stress of owning a business by finding balance. I have always been pretty extroverted, and you could ask pretty much any of my friends now. I don't hang out as much. I've never had this problem where I felt not social, and I don't anymore. Like, I'm not social at all. My weekends are sacred. Saturdays and Sundays, I don't do anything because I already know myself. I'm going to cancel. And so I've really had to find ways to be introverted, especially in a role where I'm working with clients every single day and I'm a huge support for our clients. And so I've kind of dealt with the stress by waking up early, journaling in the morning, spending time for myself, really trying to get home by 6 or 7 in the evening, because those things are living in your mind. I mean, Henry, like you said, it's not like you clock off at 5 and then everything just kind of goes away. They stay in your brain and they continue to live with you. And so I really had to find ways to find space and balance in that. Or, if we're working a weekend for an event, we keep our Mondays client free. We don't make appointments on Mondays. So if we do have a busy weekend, there's an extra day there that we can take off.
Yep. That makes sense. I got a little stuck on something you said. You were talking about how, you don't make plans on the weekends now because you're going to cancel. I'm curious, like, did you find a lot of support from the people around you? Like, even though they knew they might be sacrificing time with you, or like those personal relationships, did you find that people were still supporting you on this journey?
My friend has wavered a bit in if there are certain expectations of what a friendship looks like with me. whether that is, time-based or showing up for certain things. I am still having this internal struggle of finding that balance, because I just don't show up in the same way that I think that's been hard for me. That's been a stressor on my personal relationships and so with a lot of my friends who I used to see all the time, whether it was because I was working in the restaurant industry and we worked together every day, or when I was in college and I was living with all my friends, that I've just been super transparent and like, hey, I am feeling some changes in how I am and where I'm finding my energy. And I love you very much. And I also am just kind of not hanging out. And I'm here. And I really hope that you still feel like you can come to me for anything. But I may not be as present physically as I have been in the past. And mostly I think people have responded well to that. I try and be as open about it as possible. Like I don't want to feel guilty about it. I don't want to hide it. I mean, I've told, for viewers, Henry's girlfriend and I are best friends. And there have been times where I've texted our friend group chat and just been like, out for the next 6 weeks. Like, I love you all so much and I'll see you soon. Ways I find my energy have changed, that I like Tuesdays and Thursdays, basically, are the nights I allow for social stuff. And the rest of the week, I'm pretty strict with myself about, like, I can't do it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be, I mean, to make those sorts of sacrifices, there has to be some benefit to you. And obviously you've talked a lot about how you enjoy what you're doing, but I'm curious, like, what's your favorite project that you've worked on over the last year that's like energized you the most and really invigorated that drive inside of you?
That's a good question. I think, okay, I got it. So in the industry I work with, in public relations and fashion and branding events, all of it is very appearance based, which isn't cool. It's really interesting. It's fun. You get to see a lot of awesome things. I work a lot in the sneaker industry in particular. And so getting to travel to London for Fashion Week, getting to meet with designers, all that is so fun. The travel part has really given me a lot of joy. But I think the thing that stands out the most, that like I don't know, have chills even thinking about it right now, is this projects where I get to work more with the social aspects of things. For example, with the film production group I work with, we work really close with Community Passageways, which is a organization in Seattle that work with youth incarceration prevention. So they're working predominantly with Black and Brown youth, minimizing their sentences. They are, building community programs, safety and street teams. They are first responders to gun violence. Like, the city works with them, where they are just like building peace on the streets, basically, and advocating for less of a school to prison pipeline, all these things. And so things that have brought me the most joy is getting to work alongside those organizations, whether it is telling people a story through film, working with them on events, doing social media, all those things where people need help with these parts of branding or storytelling. I mean, I'll let you in on a secret that doesn't need to be one. Fathom doesn't do its own social media. We hired someone to do it. Like, we are a branding business. This is what we do, and we don't do our own, because the last thing you want to do as a business owner sometimes, unless you really have this joy for it, is your own marketing and branding. Like, you are doing everything else. A lot of the organizations like Community Passageways, if you are literally in the courthouse all day or meeting with families that have just lost a loved one to gun violence, you don't really give a crap about your social media. Like, you're dealing with other things. But for funding and for people knowing about you and all these things, there's still importance in getting your name out there. And so I've really enjoyed that part of just like working with organizations that are trying to make a difference.
That's great. Yeah, I want to make sure our audience has the opportunity to find Fathom Branding. So for folks listening or for folks watching, where can they learn more about your business, what y'all do, any social medias, anything you want to plug for Fathom right now?
Yeah. So we have an Instagram at Fathom Branding. We also have our website, which is fathom-branding.com. You can find us there. We have an office in Soto. So we are it's called the Gray Pants Lighting Studio. They're a really rad lighting company in Seattle, do some super cool stuff. So come on by and say hi, if you ever want to. We're always there. We really love Soto. It's been super fun. But yeah, I would say those are the main places to find us.
That's great. I'll make sure to put those in the show notes. And if anybody wants to check it out, that's where you can find it. Thanks again for connecting with me on this Friday morning to chat a little bit more about Fathom Branding. I know you're running a business, and so taking time to do an interview is not so easy. So I really appreciate it. For all of our listeners and watchers, please remember to like and subscribe. Hit that notifications bell if you're watching on YouTube so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. And again, if you have questions or comments, please make sure to submit them in the comment sections below. I'm not going to send you off with Jaga today, as usual, because I have a little story that I'm going to be telling, but we are going to bid farewell to Desi. So appreciate you coming on, Desi, and we'll connect with you later.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks for having me, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
It's story time. It's story time with Fathom. Yeah, it's story time. It's story time with Fathom and friends.
Unlike Adam, I'm going to credit our wonderful musicians who made that song. We have Tyree, Jaga, and Jessica Allen on the Storytime music with just a little bit of magic sprinkles from producer Henry himself. I've done one story on the podcast before because I met Desi back at Seattle University. I wanted to tell a story from my time in college. My more delinquent days. I was just a young 18-year-old and had a nasty habit of smoking the cheapest cigarettes you could buy at the gas station. They're called Maverick cigarettes. And they just tasted like pure ass dirt, but they were $5.99 a pack. So as a broke college student, naturally, they were my go-to. And so I had this wonderful habit of going into the alleyway behind the dorm, right by the dumpsters, so no one would see me, because I was ashamed of this habit. And I would smoke cigarettes and listen to music and get existential with my thoughts. And one day, I'd say this like 35 to 45-year-old black man comes walking up to me. Looks like he's experiencing houselessness, might be a little bit out of his mind, but seems friendly enough. And he asked me for a cigarette. So naturally, I oblige. Let him sit next to me and we share a smoke. And he just starts talking to me about some of the craziest things, the most personal things that only my bestest of friends would know. He starts asking me, how's your relationship with your mother? Are you guys still fighting? My mom and I had been fighting for the past 3 years. I found this rather odd. I said, yeah, we are still fighting. It's not great right now. So he goes, what about your brother? Is he out of the military yet? Now, my brother had joined the Army 3 years before. How would this man know that my brother was currently in the Army? Unless he knew me. So I was starting to get a little freaked out. This guy knew way too much about me, or my aura was giving off way too much information, and he was just picking up the vibes, man. And he, again, this was like 10 minutes of him just going back with questions that were pinpointing with incredible accuracy, incredible emotional problems that I was having. And so we're smoking these cigarettes, talking with each other, just one after another. How's your mom? How's your brother? Is your little sister going to graduate? And I was like, dude, this is crazy. And then he goes, let me guess your age. You're 35. No, not 35. I realized he was just a crazy man throwing darts at the wall, picking apart my ego, super ego, everything about me, randomly guessing, but it earned him another cigarette. So wherever you are, if you are listening, just know that I think about you every day. And when I turn 35, I might just smoke a cigarette in your honor. All right. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Fathom and Friends podcast. Like, subscribe, share, anything you can do to help us get the word out and reach new listeners. Now, I'm going to leave you with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. My wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to 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 my wave pool.